Hello, book lovers! Welcome to Authors Love Bookstores, presented by A Mighty Blaze. My name is Kimberly Hensle-Lowrance, and I'm your host today. A Mighty Blaze is a volunteer effort of writers and creatives who love books, storytelling, authors, and bookstores. We work to bring attention to these essential parts of our culture during COVID-19 and beyond. Authors Love Bookstores is a weekly online program that I co-host with fellow writer Joe Moldover. Our goal is to highlight independent bookstores across the US and Canada to tell you what makes them so special and what you can do to support their continued survival. We do this by speaking with booksellers and with the authors who love and appreciate their stores. If you're watching live with us on Facebook, welcome, and please feel free to post a question below the broadcast and we'll get to as many as we can later on. Now, you're probably watching, if you watch every week, you think Kimberly does not usually wear a tiara. It's true, I do not, but I don't also usually have a queen on the show. So today we are blessed and lucky to have the one and only pulpwood queen, Miss Kathy L. Murphy, on the show today. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Kimberly, and thank you, Joe, for having me on. I'm so pumped and excited about A Mighty Blaze. Helping independent bookstores is something that I believe very strongly in. Thank you.
We do too, so we're glad you're here. Also with us from Main Street Reads in Somerville, South Carolina, Sherry Stock. Welcome, Sherry.
Hi, thank you. Great to be here.
We're very, very happy to have you as well. So a little bit about Kathy and Sherry before we start talking. Kathy is an artist, an author, and the founder of the International Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys Book Club Reading Nation, the largest meeting and discussing book club in the world, now with even more of an online presence in 2020 and beyond, connecting readers with authors and authors with readers. There are more than 780 chapters of this book club around the world, and it's been running for over 20 years. The motto of the Pulpwood Queens is, quote, "Where tiaras are mandatory and where reading our good books is the only rule," hence the tiara. The mission is to promote the arts, authors, books, literacy, and reading. Kathy is joining us here from Texas. Sherry is the owner of Main Street Reads, as I mentioned, in Somerville, South Carolina. Before opening Main Street Reads, Sherry was a professional billiards player, which I'm fascinated by.
Sign of a misspent youth. Yeah, I know.
No, but you're a member of the Women's Professional Billiards Hall of Fame. You're a writer, you're a co-creator of a magazine, a marketing expert, you run writing workshops, you coach writers, you have a terrific background. I can't wait to learn more about how both of your experiences have led you to become these fabulous champions of authors and writers. So here we are. Now, just before we went live, I was asking the two of you how you know one another, and you were both telling me that you met probably a decade before.
At least,
on the conference circuit. Yep.
But on the book conference circuit.
Yes.
Right. So can you explain a little bit what that means to those of our viewers who are not familiar with?
So there are writers and authors conferences around the country that help authors get going. I focus, and Kathy does as well, I think, we focus on what's called aftermarket. So we're less about, how to find that perfect space in the corner with your cat in front of a fireplace to write. And we're more about, okay, I've got a book. How do I let the world know? And so we speak at a lot of conferences in that vein, Kathy through the book club and me through Where Writers Win. And our whole job is to help authors find their audiences, because there's great books out there that, if they're not published by the top 5, they're going to get missed sometimes. And that's heartbreaking. So.
And how does the book club work? So 780 chapters of a book club around the world, men, women, online, in person, meetups, teleconferences, bookstore support, sometimes not bookstore support. How does it all come together? Kathy, can you explain for those of us who are...
Everybody thinks it was a brilliant marketing plan to do this, but actually it was survival, because I had been a book publisher's rep and I lost my job when the big chain box stores started coming into my 4-state territory, which was Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. So I got this wild idea in my mind's eye that I would open a bookstore, but we did a business plan and it didn't look like it was going to work. So I called my sister and I said, what do you think I should do? And she goes, well, why don't you just go back to doing hair? Because that's how I put myself through college. And I said, well, I've kind of been there, done that, wore the shirt. And she said, well, why don't you open a hair salon bookstore? And it's like all these bells and whistles started going off. And I thought, well, in all the years since 1977 of being a hairdresser, I have given away books, loan books and everything. I thought, wow, selling books. I could actually sell books and do hair. I thought, what a brilliant idea. And so I started it, and it caused a media frenzy right from the very beginning. Oxford American Magazine, which was then published by John Grisham, heard about what I was doing, and they called me and they said, what are you doing? And I said, I opened a hair salon bookstore and I'm having my grand opening. And they go, we'll call you back. I never thought they'd call me back. They did. They came. 225 people showed up at my shop attached to my house out in the woods. And that launched within just a relatively very short period of time. I started a book club. I got calls from the Oprah Winfrey producers, Good Morning America, the Los Angeles Times. And before I knew it, we were featured in Newsweek Time. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. The Los Angeles Times feature gave us 3 pages on the entertainment section with a full color spread and called me the tastemaker. And that's when I had only 12 chapters. Now we have closer 800 plus, and we're growing. We picked up, I think, 40 to 50 members just this past month. And from all over the world, because I thought, well, we're an international book club because I have chapters in 15 foreign countries and members. So I put that in the title, and that just literally took off again. And now I'm doing all these iHeartRadio interviews from everywhere to San Francisco to India. It's just been, I heard one of our subjects of a book that's going to be coming up, Shah Rukh Khan, who's an Indian actor, say that he was the luckiest person in the world to be at the right place at the right time. And I kind of feel like that's what happened to me. It wasn't a brilliant marketing plan. Now, there's the brilliance right there, Sherry, because I'm telling you, she knows technology. I go to her all the time and say, help, I'm a soccer mom. Now my kids are all grown, but I don't know how to do a simultaneous Zoom and Facebook. I'm learning every night. I'm trying to learn the new technology, and I'm 64. So an old dog can learn new tricks. But my sole mission is to champion the underdogs. Most book clubs I know, they're very introverted. And I am too, but I've learned to be very extroverted because I'm talking about something I'm very passionate about. And I'm also trying to help first-time first book authors get discovered in a really big way. And we've been very fortunate because so many of our authors that we picked have gone on to superstardom, like Lisa Wingate, Before We Were Yours, or Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love, or The Help by Catherine Stockett, Jeanette Walls, The Glass Castle. We all found those books, I found those books first, and I'm very thankful. In fact, our very first book was a book I helped get published, and it was Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood by Rebecca Wall.
Rebecca, yeah.
I remember that book. Oh, Kathy, we just lost her sound. Sherry, are you still there?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay, I think Kathy just
wrote off, and we partner with people like Sherry, because Sherry is a champion for from helping authors get published to promoting authors. And so we kind of we're like-minded. And I think we both agree on so many things. We actually complement each other. And so I'm thrilled to be working with her for our annual conference coming up. So I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, we're going to have so much fun. It's going to be a digital conference, and it's going to blow the roof off of just being able to get new authors and new faces and connect them with a lot of book clubbers all over the country who even, pre-COVID wouldn't be as prone to traveling. to Texas, which I am going to miss the penny candy store, but you know, I'll get over it. Somebody's going to have
I'll
to
send
send me
you
some
some.
penny
I'll send
candy.
you some.
I'm just saying. But yeah, so it gives us a chance to reach a broader audience and really, like you said, have those deep conversations. You know, we did an event with Grady Hendrix a couple of months ago, Pulpwood Queens event, and he was blown away. It was just a little bookstore event, but we're doing our hybrid of, you know, we can take up to like 6 people inside, socially distanced, and then another 8 or 9 joined us via Zoom that night. And he got to actually talk to, you know, it's just as good for the authors as it is the readers. He got to have real conversations with his fan base, and he loved it. He said, I have not met with, this is the most engaged group I've met with. It's really, really been fun. So it's great on both sides. And the energy is just super high level. And yet there's a, you know, the beauty part of, again, as you mentioned before, Kimberly, I came out of sports where it's, you know, to win in sports, you have to beat the other person. Yeah. So as opposed to that, in the writer world, the writer and reader world, you really can set up a lot of win-win-win situations. It's a win for the author, but it's a gift to the readers. And a big challenge of the authors is, you know, they're shy introverts as well. So how do you shout, "Look at me," without shouting, "Look at me"? Well, that's where people like Kathy and I and you come in, where we can all shout, "Well, look at them. They're awesome." And so it makes it so much fun. Yeah.
There's nothing quite like meeting the author of a book you love.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just so exciting. And I have had plenty of author interactions when I have made a complete fool of myself because I'm just so excited. The book meant so much to me. And so and you walk away from that really feeling like a deep connection has happened. And I think for the writer it
As
must
you're wiping the drool off your chin. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. But you know, I think also the author probably feels really good too, like something they slaved over for so long to perfect, to share with the world, has made an impact. You know,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Oh yeah, you wake up every day. I used to start my talks at conferences with, you know, "Hi, my name is, I own Where Writers Win, and I have the coolest job in the world because I get to work with authors and readers." And that's still the case. I mean, that's still the case. We wake up every day going, and the best feeling in the world, because again, I was working more on the author side until we opened the bookstore last March. And the best feeling in the world is when a reader comes back into the store and goes, "Oh my God, I would have never known about that book." Gradle Bird is a big one here. We love Gradle Bird, and we recommend it to folks who wouldn't normally find it. It was a Southern Fiction Award winner. It's such a wonderful book. Scott Boyer's Temple of Eternity, Kat Varn's Gardenia Duty. These are books that people wouldn't normally run into. And then they come back and they go, "Oh my God, I cannot believe I did not know about that book. That was wonderful. And now I need a copy for my friend." So it's such a great feeling when it's like, it's a validation that, okay, yeah, this is good. Yeah.
So tell us about the store. So you had this very rich background in the field working with authors, and then you decided to open a bookstore. What
Yeah.
inspired you to do that?
So yeah, so we got lucky in a number of ways. The square, we're right across from the town square. My magazine offices were already here. I did not need the office space anymore because everything in the magazine business is kind of jobbed out. And at the same time, they were announcing renovation of the square. And at the same time, my parents were facing some, you know, medical challenges, which made me think I'd like to try and get a little bit closer to home. So I told my dad, I said, "You know what, I'd like to turn all this office space, instead of because we didn't need it, I said, instead of getting rid of it, let's turn it into a bookstore." And really, I thought it would just be another cool place for my authors to come when they were on Southeast tour. And who knew it was going to be like a job? But no, but the great thing about it is that Somerville has become kind of overnight this huge bedroom community for Boeing and Mercedes and Volvo all having moved in. So we're like the bedroom community outside Charleston, and not a single indie bookstore here. The closest bookstore was a Barnes and Noble that's like 25 minutes away. So it's really filled a niche in the market. And we knew that we were onto something when, before we were open, we were just getting the shelves set up and getting huge crates of books in and starting to sell. And people would come in, we'd leave the doors open. People come in and say, what is this going to be? What is this going to be? We'd say, well, a bookstore. And it wasn't like, oh, wow, that's cool. It was like, oh my God, we're going to have a bookstore. I mean, they were just over the moon excited. I mean, it's something that people get, unlike, your store selling widgets or, pancakes or whatever. It's something that they have such an emotional connection to. And they dredge up memories just like I did when I was a little girl. I used to shop at a little shop in Glen Ellen, Illinois, where Jeffrey Deaver and his sister both shopped too. And we would all get our, dollar allowance on Friday and get our 99-cent Nancy Drew book on Saturday morning. But I have so many of those moms and kids now too, that they're coming in, same thing, because they did it when they were kids, coming in every single weekend with their kids to find the latest books. And that's amazing. Yeah.
And the store is open now?
Yeah, we had to be closed for a few weeks. Then we opened quite differently. We moved some furniture around. We put up the plastic shield. I have a wicked cool HEPA filter in here that filters all the air. We keep the front door open a lot, unless it's too hot and humid, because I don't want the pages to curl. And then we social distance within the store, and we do require masks in the store shopping. We will still do curbside and home delivery for folks who aren't comfortable going out. We totally get it. It's completely fine with us, but we are open. We're not doing a lot of events, but we're doing some events when the author's willing to wear the mask and social distance and stay back, or weather permitting, we do things out on the square. Same with book clubs. It's a hybrid. Our coolest event,
Tell us.
totally fun, is on Wednesday mornings, and when weather permitting, we typically do them outside. We've had to do a couple inside, but you can look on the website, mainstreetreads.com, and you'll see we do Wednesday morning story time for the wee ones. And what we do is, we got the idea from another bookseller on one of these weekly Zoom calls with booksellers. We bought a bunch of hula hoops. So we set out hula hoops, and then we put the chairs in hula hoops, and the kids sit out there. I got to tell you, they're so much more well-behaved than the adults. They're great. They love their own little space, and we have a storyteller that comes in and reads to them. It's great. Yeah. So we get 20, 25 kids coming to that, but all distanced out. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So Kathy, this book club that you've been running for over 20 years, how can someone join it?
It's really simple. We have 4 memberships now. We have book club membership, author membership, which gets you featured in our newsletter. We have international membership, because it costs so much to send things out of the country. And then we have publicist membership, where they can promote 5 of their books throughout the year in our newsletter that goes out every month to around the world to everybody. And we did this, and it's just it's like the waves of at the beach. It ebbs and flows. As some people go out, new people come in. Right now, we've just had a surge of authors, because they're calling me every day, desperate they've got a book out this year, and they don't know how to publicize it. And I understand, because the Pulpit Queen celebrates 20 years as an anthology of nearly 70 of our authors, edited by Susan Cushman and published by Brother Mockingbird. It really died on the vine, because I did one event in Houston at Murder by the Book, and then, COVID hit. Yeah. So I have really been working round the clock, coming up with
I think she froze again.
New ways to do, where we feature our authors that books go to film, like Bruce Cameron, It's a Dog's Life, and his wife, who's a director, actor, Catherine Michonne. She's got a new movie out, Cook Off, with Melissa McCarthy. I do that every Saturday night, because what else is there to do Saturday night but talk to authors? So, and then I have an online book club that meets every week on Thursday night, that we usually feature the author that's either the book of the month the first week, or the bonus books of the month. And this coming year, I decided that I would up the ante, because as we're all sitting home, I've gotten over 600 books this year. of those 600, 200 of them I read completely to pick my list that I just announced December 1st at www.thepulpwoodqueens.com. So my 2000 list is up, but I picked 12 books of the month, and I also picked 12 international books of the month because we are getting more members from Canada to Italy to France to England to Thailand to all these crazy places. And so I thought we need to address everywhere that we are, including in the United States. So the books that I picked this year is probably my most comprehensive, best list, because the books are set all over the country by both men and women. We call it the Weekend Girlfriend Weekend that we have our thing, because that's mostly who came. The guy members, which we call the timber guys, they're usually the husbands or the authors that we feature. We still have a hard time getting men to join our book club, but they really should, because the coolest women in the world gather at our annual function, which is really a big party. It's a reunion. We have costume contests. We have the great big ball of hair ball, which you have to see that to believe it.
The great big hall of hair.
Great big ball of hair ball. Kathy Kamen Goldmark, who is an author from San Francisco and an author musician, she since passed of breast cancer, was one of my dearest friends. She started the Rock Bottom Remainders, where all these New York Times bestselling authors, Stephen King, I met her at a concert in New York during Book Expo. And she goes, who are these Texas queens? Because at that time we were just in Texas. And so we became friends, and she helped me start this hairball, and she came, and her husband, Sam Barry, and we've had guest musicians like Marshall Chapman, who is out of Nashville. We had Robert Hicks, who used to be the head of Polygram Records. We try to feature all the arts at our weekend, and we try to make it the best entertainment in the world. And it's just so much fun. And everybody was really crying about not having it this year. So the authors came to me and they said, go ahead and have it. And I said, I really don't know how to do it. And they go, we'll help you, and we'll pay to come if you'll do it. So I figured out a way. I stayed up on YouTube every night trying to learn technology, and I've got this Zoom thing pretty well down. I still haven't gotten the FaceTime and the Zoom to do it at the same time. So need your help, Sherry. But that's why you're the best friend ever. But we are really excited about our weekend, which will be January 14th through the 17th. And we added an extra day because we're adding a day of content. And anyway, we've got everybody on board. We've got Carol Fitzgerald from the Book Report. We've got Robert Gray from Shelf Awareness. We've got the Mighty Blaze. We've got Carolyn Leavitt and Jenna both coming. We've got Sherry, who's running a panel of authors. We've got bloggers from around the country, because this is not my agenda. This is my life's calling, is to connect people to stories and the authors to the people who read their stories, while sharing our stories too. So I want to work with we're the only book club gathering that I know of in the country. Do you know of one anywhere?
No.
Anywhere.
Not a book club, no.
We are focused on book clubs and getting those authors' books in the hands of book clubs. And in Dallas alone, there's like 4,000 or 5,000 book clubs. I've started over 40 in Dallas area alone. So
yeah, and book clubs are the singular most important way to start the influence train out there, because readers talk about it. It's one of the things that we coach writers on too. You know, there have been books, classic example, Water for Elephants. That was a small 2,000 book run out of Algonquin Press, and the book clubs got a hold of it. And the next thing you know, she's making a 3-book deal.
Yep.
Another one of my favorite stories of a book, and I can't remember who told it. I was with Ann Patchett and somebody else on a panel, and one of the authors was talking about, oh no, as a publisher on the panel, and Ann Patchett was saying, yeah, I never realized social was so important. And then I started reading about me on other people's stuff and realized I better get involved because it was the only way to tell my story instead of people telling it about me. But another publisher was on that panel, he's in North Carolina Publishing Company, and they had a book that a book club got a hold of. I think it was a Pulpwood Queen Club, actually, near Nashville, who read the book, and then they started telling their friends about it, and so on and so forth. And he had to go into another printing of the book. Now get this, the book had been out of print for 10 years, but the book clubs got a hold of it, and that was so that's the other beauty part of it, because as Kathy will tell you, she's a former publisher's rep. Used to be, if you didn't make it in 90 days in fiction,
Right.
you were done, start on the next book. And the social and the book club aspect of the social, and then people sharing that stuff online, has made these wonderful fiction books last for years and years out there. And I get requests for older books all the time at the bookstore, which I love.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
one of the things you said earlier, Kathy, is that it's hard to get men to join book clubs.
Yes.
I've been in a book club for off and on for, I don't know, a long time. And it's true. My book clubs have always been either all women or 95% women. Why do you think? And not that I'm an N of one, of course, but just I hear that a lot, that most book clubs are dominated by women. But I have heard some men are in book clubs. But it's
Yes. Jamie Ford.
what is that? What's the challenge to get men engaged in book clubs? Why do you think they're not as, would they rather go to
The
only ones that we have.
I don't really know, but I know that Jamie Ford, who was my co-host for years, he wrote Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. He has a book club in Montana where he lives, and it's all guys, but they meet in a bar.
Maybe that's
brilliant. It's brilliant. They meet in a bar, and then Jonathan Hote, who's the executive director of the Pat Conroy Center, because Pat Conroy is my favorite author, I swear to God. And so I know the whole family. I know everything about the Pat Conroy entourage. But he's in my book club, and he really has helped champion my Beaufort chapter. And in fact, he'll be at my girlfriend weekend with his little Beaufort High School protege, Holland Perryman. They're going to be doing Pat Conroy's Reverence on Teaching. And I'm so excited about it because I've been to this the center in Beaufort twice, and I just love that there's a lot of men involved in it, but I don't really know why. But while we were talking, Michael Ferris Smith was trying to call me, who's one of our guy authors, and he's definitely on board. The authors, once they come, they totally get it. But I think you have to go to a meeting, get outside your comfort zone, just see how much fun it really is. We have a lot of fun. And
Scott Boyer was the same way. He wasn't sure about it, and now he loves it. And he's talking it up all over the place. Wiley Cash. So it's mostly getting the guy authors involved first. My guy readers at the bookstore they don't have as much interest overall now, except if it's Patterson or Diva or Baldacci, in reading some of the more kind of literary fiction work or the upmarket fiction. But they do. When I got the most guys at our club is one of our clubs, our Living Large Club, read Cast, the Oprah book club pick. They showed up for that. Yeah, because so they'll come to talk about nonfiction.
Interesting.
But fiction is like, it's too frou-frou for them,
It's kind of like when I was in school and our teachers read aloud to us. They would read stories they found that if they had a story where the lead character was a girl, the boys would lose interest. So we read books like Rascal, Where the Red Fern Grows. The only exception was Little House on the Prairie books, but we read a lot of books that had main characters that were, and I think that gets instilled. So my grandson, I read him tons of books, and they're both boys and girls in the books. He's just 20 months old, but he loves to read. But I think it's something gets ingrained when you're a child that If it's a woman's story, it's not as important. But I go, I love to read men's stories. I love Westerns. I love thriller and suspense because I like that. I like to learn more about the way they think. And that's why I like to pick men authors. And then sometimes I'm totally blown away, like when we picked Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. I couldn't believe a man wrote that book.
That's such a good book.
So I think by us having the conversation, it will eventually grow. I mean, every guy that comes the first time, you can always spot them, like Peter Golden or even Pat Conroy. The first time he came, his wife had been trying to tell him. She'd been coming for years because she's an incredible author. Probably I pick Cassandra King books more than anybody out there because I love her books so much. But she finally convinced him to come. And a month after he came, he called me and said, "Can I come back?" I said, "What?" And I said, "Do you have a new book? Because I know how long it takes him to write a book." He goes, "I will if you have me back." And by God, he did. He wrote My Reading Life and got it out in 1 year just so he could come back to My Girlfriend Weekend, because he told me, all these years I sit behind a desk and I try to talk to people, but when you're with a bunch of your readership for a whole weekend, or you go call them on these teleconferences and things, and you hear their take on your story, he goes, and they're just like in awe. He goes, "I have to come back." And he helped me start my author dinner. When we have our girlfriend weekend where we all meet, we have an author dinner where the authors wait the tables. And so basically they put on an apron and they serve the book club members that come. And the look on my Pulpwood Queens from Texarkana when Pat Conroy, I have some pictures where he walked up and he goes, "Would you ladies like sweet tea or unsweet tea?" And they just went, Pat Conroy. It was the neatest thing. And so we do it every year when we meet in person. We won't be able to do it.
By the way, it's probably one of my all-time favorite Pat books. It's hard to pick a favorite. I love them all. But he's actually the reason I moved to Charleston, because I fell in love with his book, Lords of Discipline.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah. And I told him that too. But My Reading Life is just one of the best, coolest books. It's the book that everybody wishes that they'd written. And it sparks the most brilliant conversations, because when you read it, you'll just go, "Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I read that book. Oh, and this book, I really like this book that the teacher made us read." And it's so nostalgic, and it brings you back to all the work of authors that is really influenced not only what you read, but who you are. And it's a fascinating work. Fascinating.
His book, My Prince of Scribes, with all the people that wrote stories about him, I was lucky enough to be asked to write a chapter. That was the biggest honor. Everybody thinks it's my books that came out, or the fact that I graduated from college in my 60s. It took me 43 years. But honestly, to be featured in my idol's book on his life still brings me to tears. And it's won like 17 awards. But I'm the only person I know of. And back to the luckiest person in the world, I'm the only person I know of that was offered a job during COVID in publishing.
Yes, I want to ask you about that. That was one of my questions. Thank you for the nice segue. So not only are you an author and you run this book club, but you have recently taken on a new role for a publishing house.
Yes.
So you kind of sit in this really unique vantage point to see all different aspects of the publishing world. Where do you think we're going in publishing? What will happen to books post COVID? What can we expect in the future?
Well, books aren't going to go away. They're not. What's going to happen is, just like when everything gets too big, remember when Southwestern Bell was the phone company, and now we've got everybody out there. You get these big mega giants, and then all of a sudden something happens and it's the wild, wild west. That's what it is right now. So I got offered this job by this brand new publishing house out of Atlanta, Georgia, Lucid House Publishing, to be the director of acquisition.
Oh, I think Kathy's
We got
frozen.
Funky and it's a fun publishing company. And while she's coming back, then I will tell you that I'm working with one of their authors
Musicians.
right now.
So about,
There
I
you go.
can't hardly stand. And the thing about it is, everybody goes, well, are they going to be Pulpwood Queen Book Club selections? I go, you damn right they're going to be Pulpwood Queen Book Club selections. I picked them. So, you know, and that is not anything that I want accolades for or anything. It's just another way for me to help authors, because I learned a long time ago that getting on television, and I did this Beauty in the Book show with Random House where I hosted 13 episodes of interviewing fabulous authors. All these things are wonderful. I've been in all these newspapers and television shows, but when you go home at the end of the day, what is important to me is that some little author sent me her book that maybe wasn't published by, or maybe Sherry sent me one of her authors and said, you've got to read. She just told me about one today. And to take that book and put it out there and then see it take flight. That's what I live for. This is my life. This is not a job to me. It's my passion, and it's what I call now finding my bliss. If you can do the one thing in your world, like we get to do, Sherry, where we get to bound out of bed every morning because we're getting to read books and promote authors. I mean, you know, right now it's pretty meager income because, you know, the shop I used to work in to do hair has closed, so I can't do that. I'm an artist and I've got all this art in a gallery that nobody can get out and go to. So I have just learned to be very innovative in coming up with ways. And I have to thank my authors because they support me so amazingly. And like, you know, Jenna and Caroline for A Mighty Blaze inviting me to come on the show and tell everybody my story. It's all about sharing our stories and connecting with you, Kimberly, and share. You know, it's all about us really focusing on what's really important, and that's sharing our stories. It's all about the story.
Speaking of the story, Sherry, I'm really curious, what's popular in the store right now? What do you see that people are buying for the holidays? You gave us some recommendations earlier, which we shared below the broadcast. But
Yeah.
what can you recommend to people if they're still, we're a couple weeks out to Christmas?
So I'm very fortunate in that. Yeah, so we're a store that we don't cater as much to the people. Don't come in for the latest bestseller. They want the cool recommendations, you know, they want to know. So I do rely, I'm a big fan of Kathy's picks. I'm a big fan of Reese Witherspoon picks. I don't think she's picked a bad one yet. Some of the books that we love this year that we've been sharing widely are When No One Is Watching is a fun one on the thriller side of things. On the women's fiction side of things, really love Gardenia Duty still, and Library of Lost and Found by Phaedra Patrick is a really, really fun book. It's got some intrigue, takes place in the UK. It's adorable, it's fun. One of my favorite book club queen or Pulpwood Queen picks this year, well, actually, has two. I think it's a tie. Really love Troubled Water.
Oh yeah.
By Rebecca Dwight Brough. It's a speculative fiction based on the life of Robert Smalls in South Carolina, who was influential in his help as an escaped slave to be a help in the Civil War. A phenomenal, really, really well researched, well done. Story carries you along. That's fun. A book that was a smaller book that I just could not get enough of. And for fans of Where the Crawdad Sings, because here's what we all loved about Where the Crawdad Sings. It was that boxcar children feel of that girl like having to get it out on her own. So it was like one boxcar child, right? And that's what this book was to me. So Eldana Edwards, Clover Blue. Oh my God, I love this book. And everyone in club loved this book. It's soft and it's sweet, and when I first read the description, because it's basically about a kid growing up in a commune, I'm like, I don't know if that would be interesting in that. Forget about it. The book is so good. I love it. Can't say enough good about it. It's intriguing. There's a mystery involved of him finding his true heritage and stuff, but a great book. And the author also is phenomenal. Really loved Grady Hendrix, Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. He's quirky and fun always. For people liking quirky and fun, I always go back. So Steve Martin's got a new book out, The Wealth of Pigeons, like a graphic novel kind of thing. Tons of fun. But I always go back to for funny because, you know, when I was growing up, my mom like could not get enough of Irma Bombeck.
Yes.
I love the old, I don't think that she has a new one out for some time, but Celia Rivenbark, if you have not read Celia,
I've had
oh my God. So she did Bless Your Heart Tramp,
Yep.
Don't Dress Your 6-Year-Old Like a Skank. So they're all like very Southern hilarious, fun books. So if you're looking for something on the light side, and then what Kathy's doing with the international, I think is super important. We have a lot of folks interested in, you know, a lot more of the international flavor kind of stuff, World War II reads, and anything with that, the cultural aspect to it too. And I think that's kind of feeding our wanderlust, especially when we can't travel. Then take me somewhere, transport me somewhere. And there's a book coming out. There's a book coming out early next year, I think. That's going to be, I think, a really big book. I just finished the ARC. I've finished so many ARCs, advanced reader copies lately, that I'm overwhelmed because there's so much good stuff coming out. But one that I'm really loving is called The Apothecary.
Ooh.
Coming out from HarperCollins, and it is so good. It's so good.
Who is that by? Who's that
It's
by?
God, I don't know.
That's
I don't know, and I don't know if I have the ARC in front of me here. I'll have to look it up and let you folks know. But it is it's based in the UK, and the woman basically on a mudlarking trip accidentally goes mudlarking with some folks, where you go and find old treasures on the banks of the river. She finds this little vial and ends up tracing. So the story takes place in present day with her trying to puzzle out the mystery of this vial that came from an apothecary. And then in the year 1791, where this apothecary was out there solving problems for women that amounted to her being a serial killer, like getting rid of cheating husbands.
Read that.
Fascinating, really fun book. So that's what I'm really looking forward to talking about more. Yeah.
Excellent. So we're coming to the end of our time together. But Kathy, did you have any recommendations for books that you wanted to share with the readers?
Well, she was talking about the international reads, and I wanted to share that, but I fell into the world of foreign films when I couldn't see at night. My eyes were so shot. So our lead book is going to be for January, King of Bollywood, Shah Rukh Khan and the Seductive World of India Cinema, which I had no idea that this is the largest movie star in the world, and I couldn't believe it. And then if you sign up for Girlfriend Weekend, our February pick is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, who's my favorite podcaster. And our lead book for the January regular is going to be one of mine, Lucid House Publishing's Spellbound Under the Spanish Moss. And we have the second book coming out this coming year. So I am really excited. You can find them all on my website, www.thepulpitqueens.com. You can join, you can sign up for our weekend, and we just appreciate you so much, Kimberly. Thanks, the Mighty Blaze.
Absolutely.
Connecting Sherry and I.
The Lost Apothecary is by Sarah Penner.
Oh.
And while I'm at it, the other book that's coming out of Lucid House that I'm super excited about, I just began reading, is the new one by Gregory Eric Phillips.
I know. I'm so
And I'm going to be
excited.
working with as well, so I'm really jazzed about that. Yeah.
Second time
many
he'll be a
books.
book, and he's now we're publishing him. But wait till you see all my books. They're all over the world. You're just going to be amazed.
Sherry and Kathy, thank you so much for joining us here today
Thank
on
you.
Authors Love Bookstores. A real pleasure to spend time with you, to hear about Pulpwood Queens, to hear about Timber Guys, to hear about Girlfriend Weekend, to hear about Main Street Reads. So excited for what you're doing and all the effort that you put into supporting authors and readers. Thank you.
Give her your
Um,
website too, Sherry.
Yes, I
I'm
was just going to
sorry?
say, that's my next thing I was going to say is book lovers. Be sure to check out Kathy online at thepulpwoodqueens.com. And to learn more about Main Street Reads, please visit mainstreetreads.com. You can buy books in person, curbside pickup, as Sherry mentioned, and also they do have online ordering as well. So no matter where you are, you can buy a book from Main Street Reads. And you can buy Kathy's books as well. She has books also on their website. You can
She has all the Pulpwood Queens.
She has all the Pulpwood Queens.
Absolutely. Yep. We
Thank
keep
you
the
so
whole
much for
collection.
joining us. The
And
whole
she-
collection.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you so much, book lovers, for joining us. Please come back next week for another edition of Authors Love Bookstores. Until then, be well and keep reading. Thank you.